team, Nick Saban. Yeah. How you doing, Coach?
Great. How you guys doing today?
Hey, we're fantastic. Chattanooga, here we go, huh? Here we go. This feels like one of those weeks where, we're towards the end of the season. Your team's playing great ball. You got Chattanooga sitting there. For people, Chattanooga's got a good ball team.
Oh, yeah.
They got a good ball team. Nobody's talking about them, obviously, for any big-type college football playoff like they are for you guys. But what do you say to your team about this particular game? And coming off of what you just did to Kentucky where, the team closed and kicked ass and continued to play great football and did what they were supposed to do, I think, in everybody's eyes, maybe not yours. What are you telling them this week about the Chattanooga game?
Well, I think the big thing is people have to understand that, complacency kills momentum. We're a team that has kind of improved throughout the course of the season. So we've sort of developed a rhythm of how we practice, how we prepare, how we've been playing that creates a momentum. And, everybody that's played sports knows that, sometimes you're in a game and you have momentum and you play well and you lose the momentum and it's hard to get it back.
Oh, yeah.
So, my emphasis to our team this week has been, we need to keep the pedal to the metal, keep our foot on the pedal, and keep building on the rhythm and the momentum that we have. We don't want to lose that. We don't want to be complacent because, that'll kill our momentum in terms of what we need to do. So it's important for every guy, to do that internally and not think that this is not a good team that we're playing. We played these guys in 2016, and I watched a film, and there may have been not too many guys playing for us that didn't play in the NFL, maybe all of them, just about, and not very many guys on their team that played in the NFL. And we're halfway through the second quarter, and we're behind 3-0. So that just kind of can tell you, how important it is to stay focused, have a passion about what you want to try to do, and have the mental toughness to be able to sustain and overcome adversity, because those things can be momentum killers.
Go ahead, AJ.
Coach, when you're thinking about something like that, a week like this, there's no trap games or anything. I'm not trying to say that, but when you have all of this possible glory on the other side, I guess how is it? Of course, you want to stay the plan and stay the course, but I guess how do you make sure every minute of every day that you're doing that?
Well, I stay focused this way all the time because I try to prepare, with a certain routine every day. I get up every day. I let the dog out. I have a cup of coffee. I get 2 Little Debbie cookies. That's how I start. I shower. Same thing when I go to work every day. So, routine sort of helps people stay in the moment. And that's really what I try to focus on. That's what I try to get our players to focus on. That's how we try to prepare our players. But I don't think there's any question about the fact that there's a lot of media out there. There's a lot of people on the internet, and our players listen to that. But your character shouldn't be affected by somebody else's opinion, and your competitive character shouldn't be affected by that either. So hopefully, we can keep the outside noise away from us and focus on our standard of what we want to do, how we want to play, so that we can continue to build momentum in this season.
Your competitive character can be benefited from the outside opinion, cannot be negatively affected, though. Because somebody says this guy stinks, boy. All right, Here we go. That's what you need. Anybody says you guys are too good, though, keep it out. They don't know a damn thing about nothing. You had a quote in an ESPN.com article with
Chris Lowe, I believe.
Chris Lowe. We read it this morning, where you said you felt like at the beginning of the year, going into the season, you didn't have any first-rounders really on the team or projected first-rounders or the hype machine. And then you felt like your guys felt the pressure of almost being the next guys at Alabama. They were trying to do too much. What made you notice that from this young team? And was there a moment where you realized like they've matured, they've grown up, and they can handle a situation like Chattanooga being your second to last game with college football playoffs still on the line?
Yeah, well, I think that it really, what I was trying to get across was the fact that I thought this team had something to prove. We had a lot of individuals on this team that had something to prove. We had a young team, so they were still trying to develop, a reputation for themselves as players, as well as how our team would develop. And the team was important, to these guys. They like each other. They get along well. So teams in the past, a lot of our teams had such high expectations going into the season for individual players who already had first round grades, to, the team's supposed to be number one all year and win the championship. That took some of the fun out of it for the players, which, is never good. You want to see your players happy when they win, excited when they do well, enjoying making plays and enjoying each other. And I think that's something that this team has been able to do. I don't know if I qualified the circumstances very well, but that's what this team has been able to do. So they've had fun. We've had fun coaching them, and they've gotten better. And hopefully we can continue to do that.
Yeah, you talked about guys working their way into first-round grades publicly and everything like that through the season, how nice that's been. That's real fulfillment, I would assume, for you. Are you feeling a lot of fulfillment with this particular team and watching them develop and grow?
I am, but I think that, your legacy as a team and how the team gets remembered is always going to come down to how you finish. So how we finish this season will be huge in terms of the positive self-gratification that this team can get for what they've put into it, how they've developed, how they've improved, the work that they've done. And, that's something I'm very hopeful that I can contribute to in a positive way for them.
Hey, the amount of reunions that you're going to have, you know what I mean? It's going to be every year. We got a 10-year reunion of what? National championship. We got a 10-year reunion of what the next year? National championship. We got a 15-year reunion of what? That national championship we did the other one. Yep. Those are beautiful things. Those teams are bonded forever because of that. And you've obviously experienced that more than most folks. Ty has a question for you.
Yeah, Coach, I believe on Saturday was the first time this season that the offensive line hadn't given up a sack this year. And you guys obviously just out-physicaled and dominated a very physical team on both sides of the ball. I'm just curious, how impressed have you been with the offensive line's kind of progression this season? And also, when you have some younger guys on the offensive line, regardless of, whether they're five-star guys coming out of high school or whatever it may be, is this usually about the amount of time it takes for them to kind of be battle-tested in the SEC and kind of realize, like, hey, this is what it's going to take to kind of get it done on this level?
Yeah, well, I think, that's different for every individual. Guys develop and progress at, a different pace, a different rate. Some of it has to do with maturity. Some of it has to do with the kind of program they were in high school and what kind of challenges they had to meet. And some of it has to do with guys not really understanding, what do I really need to do to prepare to be able to play well? The mindset that you need to have to be able to play at a higher level. Because you got a lot of guys that have just been better than everybody else that they played against. So there was no significance to paying attention to detail. And now you get in college and you're playing against guys that are equal or better than what you're used to. And you got to pay attention to detail. You got to prepare. You got to do the little things right. And each guy sort of progresses at a little different pace and sort of realizing that. Everybody wants to play, but guys have to understand, what do I have to do to develop to play well? Because playing well is what really develops value for you in your future, and it's also what contributes to the success of the team.
Is this about the time though, if they're battle tested? Like, when like you said, it's each individual person. Do you think with this team though, like, hey, I feel like we've been through a lot. Well, we through the year we've gone through this with you. When we went to Mississippi State, remember, we're on the road, night game. How are we going to do? We answered. Obviously, beginning of the season, bench quarterback, he answers. It feels like we had to run the ball, answer. Had to throw the ball, answer. It feels like, right? It feels like, huh?
Well, so far, and I sort of told our players, they've taken care of business about every challenge, even when people wrote us off early in the season, when we made significant changes, like you talked about the quarterback situation. But everybody's answered the bell. We've always taken care of business, which I think you like that kind of competitive edge on your team. And hopefully we can continue to build on that. But to further answer the question, I am pleased with the progress that the offensive line has made. And I think they're playing together better now, communicating better now than they did all season.
Go ahead, AJ.
Coach, I want to get back to that morning routine you mentioned. I know it's been talked about, the Little Debbies, everything. How long have you been doing that particular routine, and is there any kind of any kind of science to it, or whatever you just enjoyed, Little Debbie's in your coffee and your little morning? And how many dogs, I guess, have you gone through in that whole situation?
We've gone through lots of dogs.
Oh.
But, I've been doing this for so long, I cannot remember how long. Somebody asked me that question, way back when, and I couldn't remember then. So, like I said to you guys before, I'm sure that back when I was growing up, they didn't have such things as obsessive compulsive personalities, but that like to do the same things in the same routine all the time and have everything in a certain order. But I'm sure that if I got diagnosed, that would probably be the...
Yeah. I'm looking at your desk right there. Everything's perfectly... I mean, there was a little tablet. There was a little tablet that was kind of sideways on the right side there. That thing's going to get back into shape. We understand that. Is that every day, to AJ's point? Every day we take maybe Sundays off after game days, or every single day year-round? Birthday, Halloween? Are we doing waking up, Little Debbie, everything? We're every single day, same exact thing.
Every day. We don't take Sundays off, so not during the season at least. That's probably one of the most challenging days for you as a college coach. Is you got to clean up the last game, you got to grade the last game, you got to make corrections, and then you got to start on the next opponent. So at least you can make those corrections with the players on Monday, as well as start to install a new game plan for the next opponent. So Sunday is a really difficult day for us, and I might even eat a little extra Debbie, on Sunday.
Oh, 3 Little Debbies.
Jeez.
You're powering through Little Debbie's over there. I mean, just absolutely mowing them down. 2 by 2, 3 by 3, get in here. I appreciate that you're such a routine guy, because it feels like everybody that has massive amounts of success operate that way. Yeah. Just go ahead and slot down the greatest college coach of all time is another guy that does that. Speaking of coaches, Chuck Pagano has a question for you, Coach.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you about one of your former players. I don't know if you happen to catch, this was, well publicized, Minkah Fitzpatrick. This is the end of the Green Bay game. Green Bay's going down for a winning score. There's no timeouts left. There's 3 seconds on the clock. He's having a conversation with Terrell Austin, the defensive coordinator. I guess they were in cover one, something that Minkah didn't like, I think, at the time, or thought that maybe we should line up in what we used to call end zone. You probably have end zone down there at Alabama, but I was just wondering, this is pretty cool because Terrell listened to him. This happens a lot in the National Football League, these conversations between coaches and players. I'm wondering that, did Minkah show up on campus with this amazing football IQ? Did this develop over time? And does this happen? And did this happen with you and Minkah down there, where you listen to your player, a guy, as smart as Minkah, and something like this happen?
Well, I think that, number one, Minkah came here as a guy that had great football savvy. And he's one of those attention to detail guys, and he wanted to learn as much about the game as he possibly could, because he was really driven to be the best player that he could be. And, he had all the right, competitive characteristics. He was a great person. He did everything, was a good leader. And because he learned the game so well, there are times when, players look at you and say, why aren't we doing this? And I remember we played Dallas on Thanksgiving, and they had just won the Super Bowl the year before when I was at the Browns, and they had the ball there was 7 or 8 seconds to go in the game. We were up by 4. They had to score a touchdown. It was 4th and 6, and we have a big huddle on the sidelines. And, Red 2 was our base coverage down there inside the 10-yard line, which the players had a lot of confidence in. And, Bill's talking, I'm talking, players all look at me and just say, why don't we just play Red 2, And, Eric Turner tackled Novacek, short of the goal line, and we won the game. So that kind of input from players, I always welcome, as a coach, because they have to believe in what you're doing. So if you call something and they don't believe in it, it's probably not going to work. All right. So sometimes it's good to listen to hear what they have to say. And when you got guys like Minkah, who you have a tremendous amount of respect for, I always listen to those kind of guys.
Minkah's a dog, too.
Yeah.
Not only is he calling play, I mean, he will.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Minkah will go, dude. It is a lot like that Downs fella that you have right now. Allegedly, people were crowning him as 2.0. Speaking of former players, Connor has a question for you.
Yeah, Coach. First of all, as someone who eats over 1,000 Little Debbie cookies every year, you look fantastic. But with the former player kind of conversation, you mentioned having a super young team, and Minkah's, one of those guys. But because you have such a laundry list of former players who have had massive success in the NFL, do you ever ask any of those guys to either come back and speak to the team or send like a little video message? Because I do remember at the national championship in Indianapolis, Mark Ingram was on the sideline. Alvin Kamara was there, who actually ended up transferring. So do you use that network to help out your current team or teams of the past?
We have had several of our past players have talked to the team on occasion. But we have massive amounts of guys that, come back, and we welcome guys to come back, put them on the sidelines. We love it when they come back. They had a great experience here. They want to come back. They love the University of Alabama. They like the spirit here. They like the tradition. The fans love them, and they get a lot of positive self-gratification from it. So, we want everybody to feel like, when you come to Alabama, you're not just coming here for 3 or 4 years. You're coming here for 40 years, and how we can impact the next 40 years of your life and how people can help you actually do that. So those guys have all been great, and I love seeing them. I love when they come back because I appreciate all that they did to help us be successful here, and I'm happy for them that they're having success in their career.
I'm not saying that you would ever need a closer in recruiting because it's been documented in movies and obviously on the football field. You're pretty good. You're pretty good. Any of the ex-guys ever get recruited to recruit guys for you? Or, like, for instance, Trey Johnson committed to Texas basketball yesterday on our show. He worked out with Kevin Durant this past offseason. Kevin Durant, obviously, Texas legend. There might have been a chance that Kevin Durant was like, hey, Texas is a great place to go. Is everything. Do you utilize that in recruiting with the boys that have been through Alabama?
Now you're trying to get me in trouble with the NCAA because you're not supposed to use alumni influence players. So I have to say, no, we never do.
What? The NCAA, we're not going to get in. Actually, there's a question right now. Tone has one for you. That is bananas, by the way.
Yeah.
Can't use these guys that came in as 17-year-olds, their family trusted me to grow them into adults and men, and they became first-round draft picks and now have completely changed the trajectory of their entire family tree. Yeah, those guys aren't allowed to tell you, like, yeah, cool place to go.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, because the NCAA says that type of information is a bad one. Okay. You're on the screen, so I won't get too ridiculous because obviously you're the greatest college football coach of all time. But boy, there's some dumb stuff coming out of that 4-letter organization. And on that note, Tone has a question for you.
Yeah, Coach. Curt Cignetti, he coached with you, I believe, in your first 3 or 4 years at Alabama, was wide receiver coach down there before he left to go to IUP, and now James Madison. He has an undefeated James Madison team in their second year in the FBS, and the NCAA just ruled last night that they are not allowed to play in their conference championship. They're not allowed to go to a bowl game, which could have been a New Year's Six based on being the best group of 5 team. What do you have any thoughts on that situation? And if you don't, as a coach, when these NCAA rulings come, is there anything that you can do? Like, do you have calls with them, or you just have to sit back and take what their word for it?
Yeah, well, I think, sometimes we have rules that are the rules, and people, are going to force people to abide by the rules. But I won't give an opinion on whether I think this is a good or bad thing. But the one thing that I do think is it's unfortunate for the players, the school, the university, that they've worked so hard to have this success, and now they're not being allowed to participate and take advantage of what they've created for themselves because I don't quite get the significance of why it's an important thing for them to not play or whatever. That's kind of beyond my pay grade, I guess.
No, it is not. You are Nick Saban. You are in there. But for any of the NCAA stuff, do you get hurt? We're just trying to understand the back channels of it all because it all sounds like legalese. Do you talk to them whenever things are happening? Is there investigations taking place all the time? How does it work with the coach's relationship with the NCAA?
Yeah, we have an opportunity if we need to. We usually try to go through the conference office, and the conference, sort of expresses our opinions. But, I think the NCAA gets beat up, quite a bit over some of the things that have happened the last 3, 4, 5 years in college football. But, a lot of these things are legal issues that got decided in the courts that put the NCAA in a position where they couldn't enforce their own rules. So they got caught in a little bit of a dilemma, and that's been a difficult management for, all of us in college football, actually.
Yeah, and it's only going to change continually as the NIL transfer portal, conference realignment, what matters, what doesn't matter. Are we going to use reason and logic? Seems like never, but maybe, maybe we will. Coach, last question for me, and we can't thank you enough for your time. Miss Terry, thinking about Chattanooga this week when we woke up after a big win over Kentucky, or was she still eyeing Auburn? She's still eyeing Auburn.
We got her refocused.
All right. That's good news. They're building a statue up there. We need to. Hey, Coach, you know this as well as anybody. Eye test is a big deal. You know that. Like, that's a real deal. Are you thinking about that whenever you're playing Chattanooga? Is that something that can even come into your mind?
Well, I think that games like this can hurt you if you don't play well because there's an expectation out there. So I don't know if you call it eye test. I just think that you want your team to play well so that you're continuing to build this momentum and rhythm that make people want to look at your team as a very good team that should be considered for whatever the circumstance may end up to be.
Hell yeah. Hey, there's a lot going on. This college football world is wild. You're the greatest of all time at it. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Nick Saban. Thank you, Coach.